Her name was Carol. In 1953, she woke every morning at 6:15 in a house on Maple Avenue in Akron, Ohio, and she got dressed before she made the coffee. Not because anyone was coming. Tuesday was grocery day, the A&P on South Arlington Street, then home to start dinner. No one at the produce counter was going to notice what she had on. She got dressed anyway. She sat at the small vanity in the corner of the bedroom, the one her mother had passed to her when she married, put on the navy cotton dress with white buttons down the front, belted it at the third notch, and then, always last, the lipstick. A deep rose from Revlon's line, 90 cents. When the lipstick went on, she was ready. She was ready every day. This is what that looked like. The average 1950s American woman owned fewer dresses than most women today own pairs of shoes. Home economics guides of the early 1950s described a well-organized wardrobe as 8 to 12 dresses. Not modest, not a hardship, sufficient. Each piece had a purpose. The house dress for mornings, cotton, practical, still pressed. The day dress for errands, fitted bodice, a full skirt that moved properly, a belt at the waist. The good dress for church and Sundays, slightly better fabric, kept on a cedar hanger and brushed after each wearing. The suit for anything that required authority. The cocktail dress for evenings, rarely worn, always in condition. The good dress was the one she felt herself in, not dressed up, settled. It had been chosen carefully, probably saved for, taken in at the waist once as the years changed her. It hung at the far end of the closet behind a cloth cover, and it came out clean and went back clean, and it would last a decade because she treated it like it would. A woman who owned 4 dresses and maintained them was better dressed across a year than a woman who owned 40 things she put on without thinking. There was no category for whatever. There was no drawer full of things she put on when she did not feel like deciding. Every piece in that closet had been chosen, maintained, and placed there with intention. She knew what she had. She knew what each thing was for. When she opened the closet in the morning, she did not stand in front of it for 15 minutes, feeling like she had nothing to wear, because nothing in there had arrived by accident. A yard of good cotton broadcloth at the fabric store in 1953 ran 50 cents. A simplicity or butterick sewing pattern, 15 to 30 cents. The dress she wore to the A&P on South Arlington Street had cost her $2 in materials and a Saturday afternoon with the machine. She had made it to last. She wore it as though it had. Getting dressed in 1953 was a sequence, and the sequence was the same every morning. Foundation garments first, the girdle that smoothed the line, the brassiere that completed the silhouette, then the stockings, each clipped carefully, checked again for straight seams. Then the dress over the head, carefully so as not to disturb the hair. Then the shoes, a modest heel, leather polished the evening before and set by the door. Then the face, a light foundation, compact powder to set it, the soft powdery scent of it hanging in the air after. A careful sweep of mascara, Maybelline, 35 cents. And last, the lipstick. Always last because the lipstick was the seal. Rose or coral or red, from the tube she kept on the right side of the vanity tray, applied with a small brush and pressed once onto a folded square of tissue. One press. Then the tube went into the purse. The hair had been set the night before in pin curls, 20 minutes before bed, and brushed out in the morning into something that looked entirely natural and required nothing further except a few careful pins. Women of this era understood something about appearance that we have mostly forgotten. Most of the work happens the day before. What looked effortless in the morning had been planned the night before. The ease was constructed deliberately. This was not vanity. It was discipline. The kind that doesn't announce itself. If this is the kind of thing you've been missing, subscribe. There is more of this here. Here is the part that is hard to explain. Carol did not get dressed like that because it was required. The A&P had no dress code. Her neighbors would not have said a word if she had walked to the car in a house coat. Nothing external made her do it. She did it because she had decided somewhere at some point, in the way that quiet decisions get made, that she was worth the effort. The smell of face powder was still in the air when she walked out the door, and she was not the only one. Every woman at the A&P on South Arlington Street that Tuesday had done roughly the same thing before leaving the house. The difference was in degree. One had pressed more carefully, one had a better fabric, one had sewn her dress herself, and another had bought it at Kresge's. But the baseline was shared. Getting dressed with care was not Carol's personal habit or a sign of vanity. It was what you did. The woman who did not was the exception, and she would have known it herself. That shared standard, unspoken, unwritten, unremarkable because it was universal, is one of the things that dissolved quietly, without anyone calling it a loss, not the world, not the grocery store, not the strangers she would pass between the dairy case and the canned goods, her. Etiquette columns in McCall's and Good Housekeeping in the early 1950s returned to this idea again and again, from slightly different angles with the same conclusion. The woman who stops caring for her appearance is not saving time. She is spending something she cannot earn back. They did not frame getting dressed as a luxury. They framed it as a practice, something you did every morning not because the occasion demanded it, but because you had decided who you were. And that person showed up for herself before she showed up for anyone else. There is a philosophy hidden inside that navy cotton dress with the white buttons. It says, ordinary days are worth care. It says, the Tuesday grocery run is worth a pressed collar. It says, you do not have to be going somewhere important to dress like you are, because the importance is not in the destination. The lipstick was always last because the lipstick was the decision. When it went on, the choice had been made again. Today, she would show up for herself. Everything else, the coffee, the list, the car, the errands, would follow from that. The morning had been won before it began. There is more of this than any single video can hold. The wardrobe systems, the morning routines, the skincare, the cooking, all of it collected in one place. If you want the full picture of how these women actually lived, it is at nostalgiawomen.com. I will not mention it again. No one decided to stop caring. That is not how it happened. The late 1960s brought with it a genuine and necessary questioning of certain things. The girdle worn for appearance's sake, the rule that said a woman's worth could be measured by the height of her hem, the expectation that femininity was something you performed on demand or lost respectability. That conversation needed to happen. The world that came out the other side was more honest in important ways. Carol was probably still pressing her dresses through all of it. She would have been in her 40s by then. No one sent a notice. But something else left with it. The idea that ordinary days deserved a certain quality of attention. That getting dressed in the morning was a decision with meaning, not just a practical matter of covering yourself before you left the house. That the effort itself was the point, not the dress, not the impression it made, but the daily act of saying, I am someone who takes care of herself. I have always been that person. I will be that person again today. By the mid-1970s, the house dress had effectively disappeared from American retail. The girdle followed it. Casual dress, which had once been confined to very particular contexts, the backyard, the weekend, the beach, began its long migration toward becoming the default. Not because women had gotten lazier, but because the rules had dissolved. And when everything becomes optional, the things that require the most effort are always the first to go. The lipstick stayed longer than the gloves, but it too became optional. A statement rather than a baseline. Something you did when you were going somewhere, rather than something you did every morning before the coffee. I think about Carol when I'm standing in a grocery store in leggings, walking the same aisle she walked 70 years ago. But what I think about most is not what she wore. It is the vanity, the lipstick, the one press onto the tissue, that small, daily, private decision to show up for herself before the day had asked anything of her yet. She was not dressing for the world. She was dressing for the woman in the mirror, and that woman was always worth it. She still is. If this reminded you of someone, your mother, your grandmother, a woman in an old photograph you've held on to without quite knowing why, tell me in the comments. I read all of them. And if you're new here, subscribe. There is more of this waiting.